Lenny Sly, RoadWarriorTraining.com. Welcome to another video. Today we're going to do a Kumi Tachi paired sword practice for you. Might have mentioned this before in another sword video that we did. These are the type of bokkens that we use. We actually use a plastic saya to simulate more of a proper draw and whatnot. So I know some of you guys don't have this. A lot of people have been asking about it. We are seriously considering selling these on our website, and this is the basic standard model of it. There's going to actually be a couple other ones that are going to be pretty much the same format of this, but they're going to be better. And once we have samples for you, we will throw that up on the website or make a video of it and show you guys what I'm talking about. The idea that I have for making these this is, like I said, this is a very basic model, you know, of a practice bokken. What we're going to do is going to be a lot better. It's going to be a lot nicer. So I have Bob Kamka here with me today. Hi. First things first, if you happen to use a bokken that has a side and you simulate more of that kenjutsu practice, when you put it in your obi, in your belt, make sure that it's in properly. Obviously coming out the side of your hakama. If you put your hakama on like how I do, the anchoring system is a huge point. If your belt is loose, your kaku obi, whatever you use underneath your hakama, if it's loose, your hakama is going to fall apart. It's going to unravel. It's going to look like shit, especially after a lot of ukemi or a lot of training in itself. It's just going to start to fall apart on you. So once you put your bokken with the saya inside your obi, most people draw from here. This is actually improper. That's incorrect. Okay, if you know anything about kenjutsu, this creates a triangle. The saya comes out. Your thumb takes control of the suba. The suba is the handguard. The suka is the handle. If you notice in some of the other videos that I did with bokken, I speak in Japanese in terms to the actual parts of the sword. Okay? The suka, handle. Suba, handguard. Saya, the sheath. Okay, get used to the Japanese terminology because that's how I'm going to continue to do this. If the bokken, once you put it in your obi, is too tight, you can sit there and do this to loosen that up. You want the bokken to be able to move freely in and out of your obi. If it doesn't, when you start to do drawing techniques, this is going to be harder to pull back as you're pulling out the sword. You're not going to get an explosive movement with that. You want that to be explosive because you're thinking that you're under duress when your sword is in the saya. That's the mindset that you want to have if you're going to train in this type of fashion. So, real simple, raise up, down, raise up, down. No matter how many times you need to do it to get it to loosen up, loosen it up. If your belt's on too tight, maybe loosen your belt up just a little bit, but not too much. Hi, onegaishimasu. So this Kumi Tachi practice, let's switch sides so they can see this. Bob's going to be in this upper position of Daijo Dan no Kamae. This is a typical stance that you'll see in Kenjutsu, and you'll even see this in Aikido. Okay? From here, I have this 45-degree angle. I'm not grabbing the sword with my knuckles up, the palm of my hand up. I'm grabbing from underneath. So basically, the suka is resting right here underneath. It's not this way. Because when you grab this way and you start to pull the sword out, you can't manipulate your own wrist. It's going to be harder. This way, you have more flexibility to draw the sword out. Okay, and deploy the sword under duress. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to be here. Now I'm also creating this triangle. It's not from here. The trick with this, and a lot of people don't know, is when you're working with somebody doing Kumi Tachi, you're pointing the end of the suka at him. You're not down here. Because then he can anticipate your movement and he can see how far the blade is out of the saya and he can attack. Grab the handle. If he's working from a ski, or even from a hustle no kamae from the side, or even a reverse hustle no kamae, or that position, he can go right down and cut the wrist or head and stop that from happening. So point the suka, end of the handle, at your opponent. You're coming up from underneath. From this position, this is going to be hard for him to see how far I'm pulling the saya off of the blade. I'm revealing the blade to the point where he can't see this. and then last second, it comes out. So it's almost like a surprise, okay? So from this position, he's in Daijō Den no Kamae. Once he starts to initiate attack, you'll see this, okay? You'll see him, he'll start to move. If you don't move, you're late. As it, come down, this is coming up, he gets you. Or he comes offline, he's in a position where his right foot is back, he can slightly step offline and still cut the top of your head if this isn't out all the way. Okay? Remember, this is training. This is about working on your distance, your balance, your timing, your technique. Not real world. Okay, this goes hand in hand with the tradition of Kenjutsu, Aikido, things of that nature. Obviously, again, my disclaimer, we don't police the streets with the swords. With katana, with bokken, this is all about training. Weapons training actually helps you with your open hand training, especially with your distance, your balance, your timing, your all-around movement, all-around body movement. That's why we don't draw from here, because you're only using your arm at this point. Here, you're using both arms, shifting your body to be able to do the cut, as well as maintaining balance and stability with doing this. Then this allows you to further and be more mobile and move to counter his attack. Okay? So one more time. So as he starts to initiate, I'm going to draw my bokken out of the saya, and I'm aiming. Basically, you want to cut eye level. That's going to make him flinch and go back. We also like to cut underneath the elbow because the elbow is about 14 inches away from his face. Okay, so if he didn't move, obviously I probably won't be able to get his eyes, but I can definitely cut his elbow. And if this was real, that would severely injure him to the point where I can come back and do a Keisugiri and cut him. Okay? I don't know anybody that's been slicing the arm, slicing the wrist, slice anywhere where it didn't affect them. The cutting part of the katana is the last 7 to 9 inches, and it's the kasaki. It's the sharpest part of the sword. It would easily slice right through that gi, as well as slice his elbow, tricep, fillet his forearm. If you have your forearm hanging off, you know, the muscle of your forearm hanging off like filet mignon, you're not going to be using this hand. Period, you're not. So you have to think in real terms. Yes, it's a bokken. This is better for breaking fingers than it is for actually cutting human flesh, plain and simple. But if you think with the terms of real weapon and what the real weapon can do, it would be devastating on him if I actually cut his forearm and then followed through with another cut. He loses. So one more time. So as he's doing this, I'm aiming for the elbow, or I am aiming for his eyesight at that point. Notice I'm not doing this. I'm trying to keep this on a horizontal plane. Also notice how Bob moved back. He created distance for himself to now come down and do a showman to my head. From there, I'm going to recover, and I'm going to turn the bokken so his bokken's hitting the side of mine. Not blade on blade like I talked before. You take a step. So from there, and I get out of the way and do a single arm ukanagashi, bring up my left hand, capture the bokken, the suka, and cut right down on his wrist. That is the Kumi Tachi. Then from there you can do all kinds of cool stuff. You can do, you know, the chibuti, the blood shake, and then you can work on putting your sword back in the side the proper way, or you can do the blood shake, the blood shake, and then you could spin the bokken. You do all kinds of stuff. It's however you want to play with it at that point. So one more time. So from here, he initiates, you cut towards the eyes. He attacks, ukanagashi, cut straight down on his wrist. You don't want to cut down and hit, and you don't want to cut down and stay right there. You want, because if you do that, that means you're slowing up your technique. You're slowing up the kata as you're coming. You're already slowing down the speed of the sword. Okay? If you do that, he can counter. So once the ukanagashi happens, it's boom, cut. So you want to make sure that you cut through. Boom. Because if that was real, hand would be gone. If you go from here, ukanagashi, and it's here, and then you slow down, Bob just does a tsuriyage movement. Bam! Then whatever he does with yoken and shomen, shomenuchi komi strike, you're going to have to recover from that. So whatever it is, if he does another shomenuchi strike, boom, there's your tsuriyage. Then you can cut, which almost looks like the last technique that we did with Kumi Tachi on YouTube. There's so many things, there's so many variables, there's so many versions, alternative versions to whatever you want to dream of. This is like Legos. You can build anything with Legos. Once you have the fundamental skills of Kenjutsu, of proper drawing, proper cutting, proper angles, all of that stuff, you can create whatever you want with Kumi Tachi, especially if you have a partner that is just as skilled as you in Kenjutsu. The list can go forever. Right? So again, so he goes to attack, cut the wrist. And notice how there's a ki-ai in that? That it's also kind of like a shock value thing, so when you do draw this out and he starts to move, see? It almost hypnotizes him a little bit to where he loses his balance. If you're, you want to scare the shit out of the guy with the other sword. You want to let him know you mean business. Then at that point, boom, he follows through. Notice how there was a little bit of hesitation? Typically, that's what you want. Your partner is going to hesitate because kind of like, whoa. You know, he goes to start to move, you draw back, kind of almost gives a little bit of confusion of, what the hell was that? Then he cuts. But if you get smooth kata, once you get to here, that initial movement happens, you draw back, this is a fast cut down. Because if you also noticed, he kind of juked a little bit. Once I cut, he kind of juked, which made me almost move because I have to wait for his attack. And when you get really good at this, it's almost like there's no contact with the shomenuchi. There's almost like no contact with the shomenuchi at this point, and you just cut down right on the wrist. So he thinks that he's going to get you because you're wide open. You're not doing this. Okay? I'm not in front of him. There's no reason for him to attack me with my blade pointing at him. I open up. I give him space to attack my head. So I'm basically suckering him into this. I'm drawing him into the technique. So I'm drawing him into the technique. He sees the opening. I move right out of the way just in time and I cut. Watch your distance, please. Please watch your distance. You end up doing the cut. He comes back and cuts. You do the ukanagashi and all of a sudden, bam! Right on your partner's head. If it's that close, don't go full speed. Right? From here, then you're going to have to make this cut short. So I suggest you lever the suka with your left hand, because a lot of people push with their right hand and they hit. Lever the suka to recreate this circular motion and you cut down right on the wrist. So you can be like, boom, right there. If you extend out and you're too close, partner gets hit with the bokken. One other thing to keep in mind. Within 4 repetitions, it will be your turn to attack. So if you hit him in the bokken, or hit him in the head with the bokken, expect to get hit in return. Especially if you piss him off. All right, one more time. Cut. Okay, one more. Okay, try this from the other side. So from here, one more. Remember, tip of the suka points at your partner. Forward position. He starts to initiate. Cut. Last one. See how I was a little bit close on that one and I made my adjustment? Sorry. Last one. So, that is Kumi Tachi number 1. Showed a lot with the video. Notice how when Bob finished, he's back in Seiza. Take a look. That's how basically you're going to want to be. Fix your uniform, especially with Kenjutsu practice. Always make sure that you look appropriate. You know, what does that really have to do with the relation to technique? It's about the tradition. It's about respecting the tradition. Respecting your gear, your hakama, your bokken, things of that. Always keep in mind, it's almost like firearms training. You're training with a gun, even though it's unloaded, always act as if the gun was loaded. We use live firearms, real firearms, not live, real firearms in our firearms training because we want that realism. So with this, you have to simulate that this is a live blade. Proper etiquette, use your thumb to lock on the suba so the sword doesn't inadvertently fall out of the saya, especially if you have a really loose fitting saya with the bokken. Just turning will make this thing come out, so you always want to keep control over the suba. It's good practice, good etiquette practice. Then obviously when you're standing here, take your bokken out, still holding this, turn your hand over, or turn your hand over this way. And this is how you should hold it. If you don't have a saya, this is fine. Just like this. So, if you like the video, hit the thumbs up. Throw us a comment down below if you so choose to. Check us out on roadwarriorstraining.com. Look at our online classes. Sign up. You know, share the video. Please subscribe to our channel. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.